Audrey.
So cute.
And our guest for today is my best friend, Audrey.
Oh. Are you choosing me? Am I the one?
Go for it. I won't get jealous.
Boy, are we ready for this episode.
I mean, kinda, yeah. It was such a weird night. As of the day of recording, our entire community is like in recovery from a massive storm that rolled through. And
Really big.
Yeah, really big.
They're big.
I don't have the equipment to handle it, so I guess I need to wait probably like 5 days or a week for a crew to get out and clean it all up.
Yeah.
But I'm happy.
Why?
I don't know. I'm in a good mood. We're recording a podcast. I've got Audrey on my lap. The house wasn't damaged, so
Yes.
that's good. Definitely not everyone can say that right now. So, yeah.
Luckily, I live in an apartment, so I don't have to deal with yard work afterwards. But yeah, we went out of power. So that was my first text to Rylan this morning was, first question, do you have power? Can we record today? So luckily we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. My night was, we were like out on a patio enjoying some drinks, and someone's like, oh, look at that rain wall over there. I think we're about to get dumped on.
You like saw it approaching.
We saw the rain like far away, and someone's like, I think we're going to get dumped on. We should leave. This is like 11, close to midnight. So it's close to midnight, and we're like, we got to go. And luckily, I already closed my tab. I was out of there because I hate storms.
You guys were at like a bar during this, like a patio at a bar?
Yeah.
And they were still open.
Well, it didn't look bad yet. Like,
okay.
We were looking in the distance, and we're like, oh, we see all the lightning in the clouds. And we started even talking about storms. But like, we saw on the, actually they had like the news channel on inside the restaurant, and we're like, it doesn't look that bad because they were showing like severe thunderstorm warning, whatever. And we're like, oh yeah, we see it. And then eventually we're like, yeah, we need to get out of here. That was like midnight. And I only lived like 3 minutes away. So I got home really quick. No rain, got inside safe. Within 5 minutes, the rain was like horizontal and my power was flickering. And so I texted everyone who was there. I was like, they had like a longer drive than me to get home, like 15 to 20 minutes. And so I was like, please be safe. And one guy from Florida, he ended up saying that it was worse than most of the hurricanes he's ever driven.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like,
well, and the warning notification that I got said it was moving at like 30 to 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Not the winds, but like the storm front itself.
Well, it came in fast because one guy was going, I think it was moving south, and one guy was traveling south, and it caught up to him. And actually, once he even got to his neighborhood, it was like destroyed. Like, he had to get out of his car multiple times to move trash cans, tree branches that he couldn't drive over. The other guy from Florida just drove over all the tree branches. Probably not a good idea on the car, but yeah, so everyone got home safe. One guy said the power was out like 2 miles before he got to his house. Like, no power was on, and like my power eventually went out. The wind was crazy against the window that I got so scared. Then the tornado sirens went off, and like I grabbed the cat and I got in the bathroom because I heard people in the hallway too. So I was ready to go to bed. I put on like normal clothes in case I did have to like go downstairs, but I just went in the bathroom. I was like, I'll be safe if a window breaks in here. And it was till 1 a.m. So I waited it out till 1 a.m. to come out of the bathroom. But so good thing I put my clothes on, because I was probably like 1:45. I was like ready to shut my eyes. I like calmed down because storms really work me up. The fire alarm goes off.
No.
Yes.
No.
And so my cat runs. He always sprints to the other room under the bed. And it's so hard to get him out from under there. But I grabbed him. I was like, I don't know. There's probably tree branches falling. There's probably stuff going places. Like, I could believe
Power
there's
lines,
a fire right now. Yeah. So I was like, backstory maybe is like our fire alarms go off all the time in the winter because pipes burst. So I was like, those are like, I ignore it.
Sorry, I'm like poking my head around because I was like, oh my God, did I hit record?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, actually.
Sorry, everyone. We're new at this.
And so I grab them, I go downstairs, and so there's this like, we live right next to the pool, and there's a little cabana that's all indoors, but they have like garage doors that can open to the pool. And that's where everyone usually goes when these fire alarms go off, when they're not real, and we just wait for like either someone from the apartment complex or the fire department to come and turn them off. Well, no one is like responding at the apartment complex because their emergency hotline's already overbooked because like everyone's out of power. Everyone, yeah, no internet, whatever. We're all out of power.
So did you ever,
And
like, do you know what caused that?
the power outage?
The fire alarm.
Oh, I'll get there.
Okay.
So like I'm with probably like 20 other people in this cabana. There's some dogs that Jackson gets to meet. But like we're all just chilling there at 2:30, 2:45. Well, yeah, it ends up being 2:45 when we get out. The fire department finally comes, but obviously with all the storm, like they've been so busy the whole entire night that like it took them a while to come. Usually they're right away because we have a fire department really close to us. But they took a while, and I was actually the person who like opened the door for the fire department people, and they are asking us where the box is to turn it off. And so like someone I was talking to, she's like, oh, I can show you. So she goes in the basement with them because this happens so often. We know where the fire stuff is.
It's ridiculous. Why does it?
We have trippy alarms.
Okay.
But in the winter it goes off because a pipe bursts. Usually it freezes up and bursts. We have really bad pipes, I guess, even though it's a new building, whatever. So she shows them, and they turn it off, and he's like, so what happened is like the power went out, which probably triggers the fire alarm to go off. But we're in like a complex of 5 buildings, and none of the other buildings' fire alarm is going off. And he's like, the other problem is it will probably go off every 5 minutes.
No.
So we're like, what? Like, we can't sleep in this. And so what the girl who showed them where the box was, he was like, you saw how they did that, right? And she's like, well, they said I'm not supposed to do that. And he's like, yeah, but you saw how they did that, right? So she's like, oh, yeah. So he's like, all right. Yeah. And so she was kind of in charge of it. Everyone off again. Luckily, we went to bed and didn't have another incident. But I was like, if it goes off again, I'm going to my parents' house. I will not be able to sleep tonight. And Jackson will not enjoy his night if I don't do this. So
do you think the firefighters, when they showed, do you think they were like, okay, here's how to disable the alarm. Here's what not to do. Don't do this.
I don't think that's what they did downstairs, because she sounded like they told her, like, you're not supposed to do this. Like, they were pretty serious, but the guy in charge was like, yeah, but, like, and she was even like, but I didn't see what button they pressed. Like, I saw it, but I didn't see the button. And he's like, oh, like, it probably said silence or something. Like, he said it very sarcastically, and she's like, okay, got it. But I felt so bad for her because she was like, well, she was sitting on the balcony watching the storm anyway, so she's already awake. I think she had a few drinks in her anyway. But she was gonna go upstairs and grab like a couple beers and then just sit downstairs by the fire alarm. But I told her, I was like, I think you should wait till the second it goes off again to go back downstairs. And she's like, true. So luckily it didn't go off again. But yeah, I got to my bed at like 2:45 in the morning, and finally I could kind of go to sleep. And then I woke up at like 7:30, but I didn't have power, and I was supposed to go to a workout class with one of my friends, and I texted her, I was like, my phone might die, my alarm might not go off. So sorry if I missed the workout class, but it did. My phone survived. So
well, I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm glad that you're safe.
Yes, and I'm glad that like everyone who had to travel in it is safe.
Yeah.
Because that sounded very scary. And I was glad I got home before that happened, because like I said, I'm terrified of storms, especially tornadoes. So when the tornado sirens went off, I knew it was probably just because of the high winds, but I hate tornado sirens.
Yeah, well, I mean, you always have to take them seriously, no matter what. I mean, unless you know that it's like a drill.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, when it's a storm watch or tornado watch, it means that like the conditions are right for a storm or a tornado to happen.
Yep.
But if it's a warning, it means that it's already happened. Like, it's been witnessed.
Like, you should watch out, take shelter.
Right. Yeah, my night, I didn't even know that it was going to storm.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the night, I woke up and it was just kind of like rain or whatever, which normally is, I mean, it's like pleasant, right?
Yeah.
So I would just like go back to sleep. A little storm, that's cool. But I don't know if it was like the pressure change or what, but I suddenly felt
the energy.
It happen in the house. I was like, oh, something's going on. And so I quickly like grabbed my phone and pulled up I had like multiple warning alerts on my phone, and I like flipped through them, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is bad. We need to like get away from windows.
Yep.
So I woke Chen up, my wife, and she is a very heavy sleeper. And I feel a little bad about how aggressive is maybe not the right word, but like you need to get up. You need to get up.
Oh my gosh.
We need to get the girls downstairs. Like, it was just very like, because if I don't, then she's gonna, stay there forever, or it might take her like 15 minutes. But with how severe it was, I was like, I don't think waiting 15 minutes is wise, just in case. Like, I think the biggest danger is if like a window blows open,
right? Yeah,
and then you've got all the glass.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was I was like pushing on her, like, Jen, you gotta get up. I apologized to her later, but it's one of those things where I don't know if I'm apologizing. I don't think I'm apologizing because I regret doing it.
Right.
So I feel like I needed to do something, but it's more like the kind of apology that you make when you do something that is not nice or kind or whatever, but is still necessary.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was her first, like, if I was woken up like that, I would have thought there was like an intruder or something. Did she think?
So, right. but even with me doing that, I had to do that like 4 times before she actually like, oh my God, energized herself enough to be like, what is going on?
Well, the girl I went to work out with, she was like, there was a storm last night. I was texting her like, hey, I might not be able to wake up. And she woke up like, there was a storm. So she's the heavy sleeper as well.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Chen probably would have just gone straight through it. And nothing happened. So that would have been okay. Yes. So it's not a big deal. But in the event that something happens, in that tail event,
yep,
it's
good to take precaution.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, yeah, she I think I don't know, I may need to apologize again or something.
Well, I walked in and she was like, he owes me.
Yeah, and now she's buying dinner for me as well, so it's like I missed an opportunity there. But it's okay, everybody's safe. We did the right thing. We got us and the cats down to the basement, and we, sheltered down here until 1 a.m., like you said.
Yeah.
And everyone's cool.
Well, I didn't say this either. It's like Dan, my boyfriend, was out of town during this whole thing too. So I was just texting him all the craziness. But before that, so like he went on a bachelor trip. And so one of the guys got sick and he had to like clean up some puke all over like a bed and someone's shoes. And like he had to do it. So he was telling me about how bad his night was going. And I was like, wow, yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. Like, good for you for cleaning it up though. And then 2 hours later, my night takes a turn. So right. I felt like I got to entertain him as well. He was entertaining me with the story. I feel bad for you. Sorry. But yeah.
Yeah.
What a night.
Yeah, it's welcome to the wardrobe. This is the Who You Know podcast. I'm your host, Rylan Deemer.
And I'm Elisa Wilde,
The co-host.
the co-host.
Although I guess we're both co-hosts. Is that how that works?
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless it's like vice host.
No, because that sounds like we are of equivalent status on this podcast, and I want that to be clear.
But I do like how Rylan introduces it every time. Like, I like how you do it. So the mannerism that
we have
you
the
do
same we have the same status, but maybe different roles.
Yes, yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so last episode we had a guest. We had my wife on, Chen. Fantastic episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you didn't see it, check it out. It's probably my favorite one so far. It's the third one, but
so I think my favorite so far in terms of content is probably the one with Dan.
And I think probably because you know more about Chen, so it's less interesting to you, and I know more about Dan, less interesting to me. But
yeah, I think that definitely plays into it, and I also think like some of the topics with Dan for me were more like things that I was trying to connect with as well. So maybe interesting is not the right word, but like I was trying to like really understand how Dan like conceived of and like related to things like sports.
Right.
Whereas with Chen, I feel like I understand pretty well already.
Yep.
So I was kind of going through the.
Yeah, and for me, like, with Chen, I love learning about other cultures, and I feel like we talked about that quite a bit, so that's why I really liked that one.
Me too.
Yep.
I love it. Like I made sure to bring up the red envelope thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the red envelope thing is, check out the episode with Chen.
Episode 3.
Episode number 3. Okay, so one thing that I talked about in that episode, though, was like how Chen and I met, or maybe she talked about that, and like the pursuit or whatever, like the transition from friends to dating. And she, like we said in that episode, she actually rejected me at the start, or a couple of years into the friendship, but like she rejected me before we started dating.
Yep.
But then I kept pursuing her, and I want to be totally clear, that in 95% of cases, that's not the right thing to do, right? Like
that is a good point.
If someone like if someone turns you down, whatever reason they give, a lot of times they're not even giving like the real reason. What they're saying, in my experience from being turned down, what they're really saying is they're just not interested in you. Like
yep.
they don't want to be with you. I don't know. I think that I'm like a highly, like I think I understand people's intentions really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been able to identify usually when that's the case. And with Chen, it was very clear to me that she actually wanted to date me. But, the reason that she gave was that we were coworkers, and so there's like a risk there. And so like the downside of the risk was exceeding the upside of dating me.
Yes.
And so what happened is I wasn't like asking or something ridiculous like that, which is, I think, always bad.
Yeah.
But what happened is just over time, like as we grew closer together, that like the upside of dating me just overwhelmed. not to brag, but like it overwhelmed the potential downside, the risk of having that kind of connection with a coworker. So, and I think that's how like a lot of workplace relationships probably go, is like people are hesitant or cautious for a while, and it takes a lot longer to like heat the stove up.
No, you're right. Like I feel like if Dan was telling his side of the story of like, I feel like it's kind of like pursuing me as well. There's complications to that. That's why. But it was like, oh, I'm just gonna be like friends, and we hang out as friends for like a while, but he's still kind of like probably like trying to like still have that place in my life still, so that like see if we're still interested. And like you said, the interest starts to outweigh the awkwardness of whatever's going on. But
Yeah,
yes.
it's tricky. And I think it's tempting sometimes to like frame these things in black and white terms. But there are definitely cases where like it's more of a gray area where
Yeah.
it's like no, but it can change.
Yeah.
And
I do feel like a lot of those like no situations, like people getting rejected, like for the 95% you said they're just not interested in you. I feel like we probably both, I don't know, maybe you can speak for yourself, but like we were good friends. Like it's not like we wanted to ruin the friendship either. So like if that was like a factor, I feel like a lot of good friends, it might be like, okay, I don't want to ruin the friendship. You said no. I'm backing away. Like I want to be friends. But it also might be awkward to be friends if you have that
yeah,
type of interest in each other.
I do think a lot of people struggle with that too. That's never been the colloquial. I can't say that word. Colloquial.
Yep. That's a word.
The
Do I know what it means?
The colloquial term. What a stupid word. The as it's colloquially referred to as friend zoning. I don't think that's like. I don't think that's a real thing. Or at least I haven't experienced that. And
true.
And I think friends. I don't know where I'm going with this now because I got so caught up in the word.
They
colloquial.
know their boundaries. Maybe if you're good enough friends,
right?
It's like you know each other. I don't know.
I think. I don't know. I guess I don't want to turn this into like a whole dating advice segment or anything.
Yeah.
Let me just back it up. My main point. I didn't want anyone to take away from the last episode that being persistent is a good idea almost ever. I think there are those unique situations like what Chen and I had that persistency is probably not even the right word, where it's more just like letting it simmer a bit longer.
Yeah. Like taking a step back.
Right. And so I didn't want it to come across like, oh yeah, all you got to do is keep pushing, keep being aggressive.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Did we cover that well?
I think so. I think, yeah, don't persist. I feel like I got to say it again.
Yeah, I think don't persist is the right call.
Yeah.
It's the right call.
But again, we're not dating advice experts.
Yeah.
Either.
Well, I am, but I don't want to get into it.
I'm not.
I guess I will say, if you are having trouble meeting people, get out of the house and do the same thing many times. And what I mean by that is like, find a hobby, meet with the same hobby group often. And what will happen is you'll develop friendships, and those friendships will open you up to a whole new group of people, and you'll get to know people, and you will likely meet somebody who will care about you and you'll care about them.
Even like, I feel like you might be going even relationship wise, but even having a friendship like that is something special too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
And also it helps you grow as a person. And that's really, I think, the biggest part of being relationship ready is focusing on yourself, your self-improvement, how you relate to people. Yeah.
Yeah, they say gotta love yourself before you love someone else. That sticks with me a lot. I don't know. It's like I do have to be proud of myself and confident in myself. I don't know.
Do you feel confident in yourself?
No. I don't know how to say that any other way. Maybe I'm confident in myself, but not things I do is more probably the route I would take. I'm always like questioning. I do question myself after many things, like, did I do that right? Did I say the right thing? Even while it's happening, that's probably why I'm a more shy person because I'm not confident in like what I'm going to say will be beneficial, will it harm someone else? So like that makes me a more shy person too. Yeah, my confidence affects a lot of things.
I think I used to be overconfident in that while I would still do self-reflection, which is what you're describing, but maybe with like a negative
Yeah.
spin to it.
Yeah.
Um, I would barrel into conversations with people. I would use my intelligence like a cudgel. I would not really care about people's feelings. And I think being an actuary, surprisingly, has led to a lot of self-doubt. I don't think is the right way to phrase it, but a lot of like, um, instead of thinking a straight line, I kind of think at things from many different angles,
Yeah.
like constantly, because that's how we're trained to think.
Yep.
And that's introduced. I mean, I've just identified so many problems and like things that I've said in the past, things that I've done in the past, things that I say and do now. And I feel like I'm just constantly like, it's like I've got multiple trained observers like watching me at all times and giving me feedback. And instead of like barreling into conversations now, I'm a lot more thoughtful about what I say and how I say it because I have these like not literal voices, but like the angles that I think about the things I say have just like multiplied over time.
So are you saying almost like the analytical part of being an actuary, like viewing things from all different angles has kind of morphed into your like personal life too? I
Yeah,
say?
like
Okay.
it has made me a better person.
Okay, wow. I don't know if I can say the same thing about being an actuary.
Well, wait until you're like almost done with the exam process and you'll
Okay.
No, I don't know. I think it's just like the way that we're taught to think, and maybe this is almost like a mathematician kind of thing too, but
No, definitely.
just the level at which I have that like anxiety spiral of thinking about what I said and did. It's like it's fractaled. So instead of just like thinking about the thing, I've got like 20 circles going on the same thing.
Yeah, and now that you say it like that, I'm almost wondering if that came first, and maybe that's why I can do the things I do in my job. Like maybe I have those thoughts coming in all the time growing up, and then I have those thoughts now when I'm looking at data. I don't know.
Well, I know. We can get into this a little bit. So, like, I have mild anxiety, and I don't even know if I would call it like a social anxiety because I feel very comfortable with people, and but I do stress out about it, or it's almost like an excitement.
Yeah.
Like it takes some like before I jump into a situation, I kind of like have to like frame it out in my head a bit before I go into it, or I won't feel comfortable. But if I do that bit of like prep work, then I'm great.
Okay, yeah.
Like we prep for these episodes, obviously, but that little bit of prep like lets me sit in the chair and feel 100% confident.
Yep. I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel the same, but from a different angle. Yeah. So like the first episode where we went into it, just like not knowing, did that freak you out a little more? It did to me, but
that I was definitely nervous for the first episode, but I think for 2, 3, and 4,
yep,
I think I've done.
Yeah,
it's not even like an issue. But I wanted to go back to what I said before about anxiety.
Yep.
So I think I do have like a touch of mild anxiety, and what I've identified in myself and have later read in articles, I don't remember if it was like legit articles or like pop science stuff, but what I've identified in myself at the very least is that little touch of anxiety makes me like hyper aware of other people's emotions. So I think it's actually like improved my ability to relate with people, have interesting conversations with them, connect with people. So while there's like the downside of more stress and the occasional pseudo sleepless night, those things are at least manageable. But the benefit that I get, I feel, in like connecting with people and really understanding people and almost like intuitively knowing like a person's like motivations or like just insight into like their behavior, like I think it's almost like a superpower.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, would you think like what you're describing, is it the same as like empathy? Is that the same word?
Yeah, I
To
think
kind of like your empathy has grown, or
I don't want to sit here and say I am an empath or something because I'm not. I think it really is just like a heightened sense.
awareness.
Yeah, heightened awareness, and I think anyone can train themselves to get to this point as well. It just takes effort. But yeah, I would say that I am empathetic, but I don't think that's quite what I'm getting at. It's more like the little twitches in the face and like the way somebody's eyes move and their body language. I think it's just like it's like breathing to me, understanding that.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that you can find that like positivity out of it.
You
like,
gotta turn
it.
all the bad things in your life, you gotta squeeze every last drop of good out of it.
Yep.
And it makes your life so much richer to take those bad things and turn them to your favor.
Yeah, I'm a big spin it positive. Don't let the negatives ruin my life. Then again, think about the negatives all the time, but I still live my life in a positive way. But yeah, I like it.
Gotta love it. Okay, we didn't plan to talk about that at all, but that was great.
It's okay.
So we had a little homework after last episode because, well, first let me say, I don't know when this will be posted. We've had some delays on like the graphics side of the podcast, and we are hopeful though that we'll start releasing episodes soon. But I think this is still like in the zeitgeist at the time of publication here.
Yeah.
The UFO report. And before we get into this thing, I want to say I think like our viewers are probably going to be in one of two camps. So we're going to have people watching us. You know who you are, who are following this UFO stuff and have been following it for years, and you know every last little bit of information about it. And that's really awesome. And I'm glad for that. What we're going to kind of deep dive into today, for your edification, is the actual report that was published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And this was, I think, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, maybe. Elisa and I both read it, the entire report, and we have some comments about it. If you haven't read it yet, I think this will be very cool for you to hear us go through because there are some interesting things in there. A lot of the headlines, I think, gloss over just how interesting the info is. And then the other camp of people watching today, very handsy today. That's not the right word. I'm talking with my hands. I think the other camp of people who are watching are almost entirely out of the loop on UFOs, probably still thinking that like these are smudges on cameras or like weather balloons being spotted. And I want to let those people know that the conversation's gone so far past that. The things that are being reported now are fascinating and kind of debunks like the camera issue kind of stuff. And and weather balloons are very easy to identify now. And we're talking about like all military reporting at this point. So I kind of wanted to frame that because I don't want people to tune out for this portion because they may be like, oh, UFOs are just crackpot theories. Listen, I'm not saying they're aliens or anything, but there's something that's being picked up on, and we want to talk about some of that today.
Do you want to say like what point of view you're coming from? I feel like we're probably different. Like, I don't know much about UFOs. And so like I have this like, I'm probably more of like on the, before I read the report, I probably have kind of like a slight misconception of like what I think a UFO is. Like, they're not all aliens. It could be a bunch of different stuff. It's just like, why do I care about UFOs is I think maybe the difference we might have.
Right. And I think there's a very good reason to care about UFOs, no matter which camp you're in on whether you think aliens are actually here or not.
Yep. Yeah. That's kind of the more interesting side of the stories.
Right. And I think, okay, so you read the report. We haven't really talked between us. I know we like talked about some of the numbers that they list in there.
Yep.
But maybe, do you want to summarize like what the report is?
Oh, you're giving me a test now.
I am.
So when I read it, it felt like to me some of the main points, maybe that's what I'll go through, is like the main points that I got out of it is like, for me, it also taught me like, they like, I don't even know who they is. They who wrote the report.
The Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
Yes.
I had to practice that, by the way.
I didn't practice anything, so I'm going to look over at Rylan every time I forget what I want to say. But they want to explain that there are a lot of these events that they don't know what it is, and they need to increase, like, to me it felt like almost like an announcement, like, hey, need to increase like the amount of efforts going towards identifying these types of things for many reasons. There are many different types. They have like 5 categories of types of things that could be in the air, in the sky. And so like, what do those consist of? Like, it's not just aliens. Maybe that's a point I want to make to some people. And like, they are going, like, there is a real need to like identify these things, and we need more technology, more maybe resources aimed at this. And like, that's kind of like almost the main gist I got from the report is like, we do need to like up the effort, and we will.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, and you made a good point that it's not just about aliens, and I think that's the reason why we want to be clear that this is the UFO report, or as they say, the UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena report, and not the aliens are here report. They're using UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, specifically because these are unidentified. Like, we literally don't know what they are. So maybe we can talk about, like, this report came to be because there's been such a stink the past couple of years, so much pressure on the Pentagon to actually like release some info on this, because there have been so many instances of leaked footage from the military of these things that, you know, on the cameras or on the radar, or even on like visual reports, they appear to be aircraft that in a lot of cases are operating in ways that our current understanding of physics and technology don't appear to support the ability to do.
Right.
So that's stuff like going from a standstill to hyper fast in like a split second with no visible exhaust or heat signatures, or making turns at such a sharp degree and at such a speed that it would destroy any craft that we could put together with our current technology.
Yep.
So I think maybe talking about the report now in terms of numbers is helpful, because the report describes that there are 144 of these unidentified aerial phenomena reported. One of those they've been able to classify as something, so it was a case of a balloon. So one of the 144 they know what it is.
Yeah.
The other 143 they don't. Of those 143, 80 of them were identified on multiple sensors. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that some people think that maybe it's like a sensor problem that shows something that actually isn't there.
Yeah.
But if you have multiple sensors identifying the same or picking up the same object, that speaks to the fact that it's not a sensor issue.
Yep.
It's real, right?
Yes. And so, yeah, 80 out of 143, quite a bit still.
Yeah. And then going into the numbers more, let's see, there's the 21 and the 18.
Yeah, it's like 18 unusual flight patterns or something.
Yeah.
In like 21 reports. So
there were 18 events where a craft was witnessed doing something like what I described, like the ultra sharp turns or the ultra fast accelerations, or even cases of them like dropping underwater with no noticeable like disruption of the craft.
I forget, we were talking about this a little bit, but like, are some of these like people actually saw it with their eyes too, and it wasn't just picked up?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were some cases of servicemen and women visually spotting the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's wild stuff. And so I think even, like, let's pretend aliens don't exist. I mean, this kind of technology could indicate that there's like a foreign country observing us, right?
And I think that's like probably the main reason I think about UFOs as being a problem, is like, we have no idea what these things could be seeing, listening, doing to, from other countries doing to our country or other countries.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. I think it's way more likely that it's aliens. And that's not even me being hopeful. I just think for as long as these have been reported, and certainly like the number of reports have been increasing recently, so it could be, you could maybe say it's a fairly new technology. But like, I saw something in the past, and certainly these reports go back decades, and I think if this kind of technology had been around that long, no matter who on earth has it, I think the beans, I think the tea would have been spilled. The tea definitely would have been spilled. We would know who. And I mean, this is like transformational technology. It would be used for so many things if we had access to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely, just the way that humans are, that it's not our technology. That's the stance I take. I think you could make a case, though, that it is human tech, and somehow the lid has been kept on the pile of bean tea.
I mean, it's just so, it is the unknown, which is like kind of scary to think about, but like, it's so unknown. Like, maybe humans could have created, maybe they, like, I don't even know what to think about it. That's just the weird part to me, is that we can't figure it out.
Yeah.
With the current technology we have today. I don't know.
Yeah, that was actually something that was funny in the report, because they, like you said, they list out like 5 different categories that these things, like, maybe one day they'll potentially be able to classify them into. And the 5th category is other, which is kind of a catch-all.
Yep. And
they say in other that maybe these are things where we would need better technology to be able to identify them. And that to me was like, it was just a really funny thing to read while thinking about aliens, because it's like, this is a military report, and they're saying that their sensors might not be up to technological snuff to even be able to identify these. And it's just wild to think about, whether it's aliens or foreign adversary, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even on the foreign side, it still makes me nervous. Like, our military still can't pick that up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so for those of you who weren't aware, that report is out there. It's real short. It's like 9 pages. It's written in plain English. It was like written for Congress, I think, with the intention to release it to the broader public. So it's easy to digest. Oh, actually, before we move on, I wanna go into, and we're back. Sorry everyone, we had like a technical issue. We had to restart everything. But what I want to go into before we move on is 144 or 143 unidentified. I think that might sound like a lot, but I want everyone to understand how many more there probably are, because that 143, in the report it says the majority of them are since 2019. Okay. Because that's when they started gathering the reports on the UFOs in the Navy. And so almost all of that is from the Navy, starting in 2019. They opened up a similar reporting structure in another branch of the military in, I think, November of 2020. So fairly recent. Do you remember which branch that was?
Air Force.
Air Force. Okay. That makes sense. Since they're flying. So just so you understand, that 144 is from a very short window of time, and only primarily from one branch of the military.
Yeah.
So this report doesn't include like civilian reporting, or the other branch of the military or any other countries. This is just with a touch of the Air Force. It's primarily the United States Navy, which to me is wild, because if there's like 143 in that brief period of time, and what was it, 18 of those events were like unusual flight characteristics like that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think we're going to see a lot more. They said they're rolling out reporting to the other branches.
One like tidbit that really struck me was like the Air Force is actually like collecting data on like the best spots to identify these UAPs as well. Like, I don't know, I thought that was interesting that they're almost like doing research.
Geographically?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. If you have a different interpretation, please let us know.
Yeah, sound off in the comments.
Yeah. But that's what it sounded like, is they're trying to figure out even like how to collect more of this data by collecting data. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. And okay, so here's what I recommend everyone. You could read the report. I think that's fine. But I think what might be more entertaining for those of you at home is to look at the 60 Minutes episode that came out. I think this was a month or two ago. 60 Minutes did a whole segment on this. It's like 20 minutes long, despite the name. And they go over high level, like what this conversation is all about. They interview some of the people who have witnessed these things firsthand in the military. So I think that you'll find that really interesting. Definitely recommend you check that out. That's probably a better starting place than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence PDF that was released.
Well, and I haven't seen it yet, so maybe that'll be my homework this week.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. We should do like a movie night.
Okay.
Get the crew together.
20-minute movie.
I'm really bad at planning events, so.
I feel like I'm okay with this. I can get this. I can get this going.
So yeah, that's where I recommend people start. Yeah, that's the segment, right?
Yeah. Nothing else about UFOs from me.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was curious. You don't have to share, but did you want to share your UFO experience, or I don't know if you want to call it a UFO
Yeah,
experience.
you know what? Let's do that. And we had something else that we were going to talk about today, but I think, given the gravity of recent events, I think I'll tell my story. So, listen, at the end of the day, I don't know what I saw, and a lot of the reason I'm interested in the UFO investigations, these reports, is because I saw something when I was young, and I would like an explanation for it, whatever it is. So let me go through that story. When I was, I think, 17, I was driving home from the town that I lived in, and my parents' place was like in the woods, like 15 miles out of town. So I had to, drive along forested roads. And I was coming up on a stop sign intersection late at night. I remember it was a cloudy night, and at the stop sign, I looked ahead and to the left where there's a person's house there, which I drove past all the time. But this night, I saw these three lights above it. They looked like orbs or half orbs, kind of circular. Hard to tell because it's just a light. And they were in like a triangle formation above the house. And the lights. So I pulled past the stop sign as I'm seeing these lights, and I don't remember what color they were. And I was like, what am I even looking at? Because they're like above the house, and they're spaced out enough where if it were one craft, one flying thing, it would be quite large. So I would say maybe 2/3 the size of the house itself, maybe even a little bigger, but hard to tell with the distances. So I pulled off to the side of the road because I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, what is going on? And the three orbs just like, I don't know. The acceleration was like fast, and it wasn't a helicopter because I would have heard that because it was close enough to me. But they just zipped up. Just they went from like a total standstill to like up into the clouds. I didn't hear anything from that.
Was there, I forget, we talked about drones before, but did you think it could be drones at all?
Well, I didn't, because back then drones weren't really a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was long enough ago where drones, I mean, they weren't even like in like conversation because they just weren't a thing yet. And maybe there's some military exploration into autonomous or not autonomous, but like drone technology back then. I don't know. But weird
scary.
for it to be hovering above a house.
Yeah.
Also weird for it to be that big. Like if I were to see that nowadays, I would think that is an absolutely enormous drone.
I was even thinking if it was 3 separate drones. Would that make sense? Or are they like so evenly spaced? Maybe that's
they looked very evenly spaced, but drones can be coordinated to be like move in tight configurations like that. So if I were to see that now, yeah, maybe I would think, oh, 3 drones above this random person's house in the middle of the woods in a small community,
filming a haunted movie.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. I guess I don't know exactly how I'd interpret it nowadays, but it was so long ago, and that just didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like drones weren't. The word drone wasn't like used, and
no,
we didn't have anything like that.
Like even maybe for me, maybe 8 years ago I heard the word drone, but that's still like a long time. I want to say 5 years ago.
I think I remember it first coming up during like the Obama presidency.
Okay. It's like 10 then?
10-ish years ago, maybe 8 to 10, when it became like a topic. But certainly as far back as when I saw that, I mean, drones weren't. So okay, regardless, I saw something. I don't even know if drones can really move that fast.
Yeah, that was
and if there were drones nowadays, like you'd still hear like the buzzing of the rotors. I didn't hear any of that.
Mhm.
I don't know what it was. And so
Yeah.
when I saw that, I mean, there's nothing I can do with that info except think about it.
Yeah,
And
just
so I've been interested.
I was gonna say, yeah, all you can do is wonder and keep thinking about it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
Interesting.
I wouldn't say like I hope there are aliens. Like I think there are definitely a lot of people that really hope. Um, but with what I know, I think aliens are more likely than like a foreign adversary's tech. For these reports, at least. What I saw when I was young, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a stupid kid.
Maybe a quick question because I don't know. Are they releasing like any more information about these like 143 incidences?
We got to keep the pressure on, so they have to, right? I don't know.
Okay.
I think there are probably people out there who do know. I'm definitely not an expert on this.
Okay.
So,
That's okay.
the main reason I wanted to talk about this is because the report is new, and I want to make sure that people know that it's out there for those who do follow the UFO stuff, and kind of give our thoughts on like the numbers behind it all. And then for those who don't follow the UFO stuff, I mainly wanted to have this segment to really encourage people to, at the very least, watch the 60 Minutes thing, because as more info comes out, it's going to be important. Whether it's aliens or foreign tech or secret US tech, although the report does say that it's not US technology. So I think that's important to point out.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, you know, this kind of tech that we're witnessing is important. It's like physics. It's defying our understanding of physics. So
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to me. Like when I read it, it's important to know that like the military is capturing this stuff. It's not just people in their backyard. Like
right.
Yeah, it's more. It makes it more serious to me. Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining us. We are going to continue doing weekly episodes. I hope you all have enjoyed the way our studio looks today.
Oh, yeah.
So sorry if like we're giving you whiplash. I know we change it. I think we've changed it literally every week at this point.
I think so.
And we're going to keep changing it until we get it right. We are bringing a fantastic consultant in to help us with the studio design, and I think we're doing that next week.
Yep, we're excited.
So yeah, I really hope you guys are guys and gals, etc., are enjoying everything that we're doing here and the improvements that we're making, because we are really proud of what we're putting together.
Yeah,
and we want to keep making it better. And
stick with us.
Hopefully, good God, hopefully soon it'll stabilize and we won't need to like do a studio overhaul every week. I'm looking forward to having much shorter setup periods. But yeah, we're super enjoying it. Thank you all for joining us.
I never know whether to say something after you say thank you for joining us. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna be awkward with that.